I'm calling this meeting of the Perry Township Board of Trustees to order. The order of business and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For you are two sets of minutes. The first one is 5 regular session minutes of June the 5th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Second. Vote?
Yes.
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 And then the second one is regular session of July 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
Vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Quickly, get the word into panels. At a after action meeting with the parade committee. Appreciate all the participation. You had a report out to them.
Yeah, it'll be a couple weeks out. Yeah.
I know Epcon and Ravello, thanks to police department, road department, and all the staff, including the Arlington Fire, for being at their National Neighbor Night Out. Very successful and well attended. Hope the food was good down there. So anyway, and I know they're very appreciative of being there. So went to Brookside, Michelle's coming. And so we have a guest this evening from Software Solutions. This is the discussion that we have had regarding the budget program that we've gone back and forth on. And I know that this is a program that is utilized by, if I'm not mistaken, Beth will have to correct me if I'm wrong, Worthington, one township, and a few others that we know.
Correct.
In the county, so they're local government oriented. So Grant, if you want to come on up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Grant, actually, is that going to work okay for you?
Well, it looks like it's thinking to find that this way. Maybe we'll give it a second.
You have to hit the Windows button and P.
Windows P.
Online.
I thought having you at either end of the table would prevent
The ones who put us there.
causing all the trouble.
This is.
Oh, is that who it is?
Oh, is that who it is? Oh.
That's a new title? Is that official?
It is now.
It's not.
You witnessed that, right?
I did.
Thank you.
I second.
Vote, yes.
Oh, sure.
I sure email me and I'll. Sorry, guys.
Do some stuff. I can help.
No problem. Okay, starting to really not like technology much.
Does that have a, if you hit source on it, does it go to the connected display? Or
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, I want to check his laptop. Should be on that. It should be.
yeah, it's like the TV is not even pulling up on mine.
This one.
How many people does it take? What's something else?
IT teams.
Oh, I don't know.
Nope, that doesn't. Ben, if you're connected, I can just email it to you and you can.
Yeah, but the problem was, for some reason, mine's not coming up either,
Well, see, something's in the water.
and I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Watch it back.
Probably a little bit more entertaining.
How do you get to?
Is mine?
Cause usually, I mean, we get the same thing, we just hit 7.
Yeah, normally,
There you go.
Oh, there.
There's remote access.
Close,
Yep.
sir.
Yeah, now you should be able to.
okay, try it. Oh, dear Lord.
Connect remote PC. What if, wait a minute,
Oh, yeah.
screen sharing,
Yep.
there we go, that's what we want, right there.
Wrong bus.
Can you get it?
Do you need to be connected to our network?
Yes. If you got your own time, it's on the same line.
I am that way. I'm on
Yeah, he's on Wi-Fi. Look.
You know how your Brown's gonna be this year.
I think it's our year. This is the year.
I saw somebody say,
Yep.
your Browns fans, whatever happens at the first preseason game, if you win, it doesn't mean that you're gonna win the NFC or AFC North. It doesn't mean you're gonna win the Super Bowl.
100% of the job lost it. No, I mean, yeah, if he could just get back to where he was 3 years ago,
You got some of those
it's
ones.
very good. It's not, it's not.
Hey, I've got Steeler tickets if you're interested. I got a guy that's, he has season tickets and he's looking to. Just tell me what games you want or what games you're thinking.
Okay.
I get dibs on the 49ers game, so.
Monday night football game too.
That is. Want to go back to one more Steelers game? For me, any bunch.
All wise choices.
There's a Permane Brothers over by Wheeling, just outside.
You look?
Virginia.
It's not
Like the
You
one-
gotta go to one downtown.
Yeah, one downtown. So
Okay.
It's like an East line.
There's that one in that strip district, which is the original one. And there's one that's kind of right by Pitt too.
The block cameras.
That's really good.
You want that? Do you
Yeah,
want
the one
that
with
sign?
There's a really good place there called like the O or something too. It's right next to that.
It's right next to, it's like one
Taking it,
over, I think, isn't it?
reversing it.
I think so.
Sometimes you have to Penn State. You can go
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh way or like the Youngstown.
And I'll just hold on to this.
They're about to say.
You don't need to hold on to this.
So people go to Pittsburgh.
No, I need to
They'll
go
stop
stop.
there once in a while.
There's one in,
I'm gonna just try and shut this off. And
So-
start mine. Okay, Mike, I'm gonna try and shut this off and restart mine.
at Wheeling, I can't remember what it's called, like.
If not, we'll just have you bring
I think.
this up here.
There is a Tridelphi.
Yeah, I think that's where that.
Are you
It's like in a,
connected? It's just a little bit.
For some reason, no.
East of.
I have no idea
yeah,
why.
and it's like in a shop, you know where, what it was, it was?
Yeah.
It's out, just out by that.
There's that giant like Indian gas station. right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Beth, I hate to jump around on the agenda. and
That's
just
go ahead.
everybody's time.
You guys go ahead.
How about we start with yours? I know we're jumping. But you want to go ahead and do your report? Portion of it.
And Mike, if you can try and get him on while I'm doing mine, I guess. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see, there's nothing new on the ODOT 161 study under old business. The loan proposal, Pete's gonna have that information ready for you folks for the next meeting, and he'll be here to present for the water.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, the sewer tap in. He will also be here. Chet met with the Director of Utilities at Columbus, and she's in agreement, special improvement districts is best versus the water district. So Pete will also be here to present your options there, kind of run you through everything. There was a remark whether or not we could use motor vehicle tax to set aside money for the drainage fund, and I got confirmation from the attorney. There must be another ORC code out there. But she says, yes, we can use motor vehicle tax money for that.
So we can use that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, right. And I am asking her to go ahead and send me
Put that right.
right, thank you. Mhm. The reciprocal easement agreement, and when I say that, it's this latest and greatest here at this right turn in. I was asked to get somebody from HPlex here, and the owner wishes to be the one to present to the board. So
Is
I don't know
this
if you guys
I'm
had-
sorry, is this the one, the reciprocal easement agreement there?
no,
Or
this one
just-
back here for the right turn.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Just a
right.
2 foot thing.
Yes, correct.
okay. Right, that's right.
So anyway, I had a chance to talk to Joe in depth about this. Basically, they're just asking for 2 feet of which amounts to about 300 square feet, about the size, maybe not even smaller than this room. So basically, the way I understand it is if we make them pay for the easement, then Mount Carmel's got to pay for the improvements. If we just give them the easement, then the city of Dublin will pay for the easement. My feeling is it's such a small amount and they need a decision, and I'm way good. Like before, I thought it was going to be more than that. And I was going to say, yeah, they're going to take a significant, but it really doesn't amount to much. And I think it's probably in best gesture with our new neighbors to say, hey, let's go ahead and do them a solid, and who knows what kind of what things we're gonna need as neighbors.
I wish we could get something in return or a commitment to do something for us though. I mean, that's not nothing that we're getting,
Yeah, but it's from my
I know.
standpoint, we're not gonna use it, and it's not affecting anything that on our property. But I think it's a gesture to Mount Carmel to say, hey, because ultimately, if we don't, they're gonna have to pay for it. And I do think it's one of those things that we can do them because they're gonna be our direct neighbor, and city of Dublin will pick up the cost of it. And
Who will pick up the cost of
the city of Dublin will pay for the
easement?
the improvements.
What's that improvement gonna cost?
It's not small.
So here's my thing about this whole thing, that we're not a charity. And this is business. And Mount Carmel came in here with one idea that easement out there was theirs until we came and hired Joe Miller. which cost us a pretty penny. Great attorney. Got us back on track that it was our easement, so we paid money for that. This property is owned by the taxpayers. And we're also gonna have to pay for improvements out here. This is not our project. We've been good neighbors. We don't complain about the dust and the dirt and all that other stuff. But I don't think as a neighbor, especially a government neighbor, that we should be bearing any cost or giving anything away. I think there should be some kind of arrangement where we are closer to being made whole. I mean, this is not our project, it's their project, and if that project wasn't there, we wouldn't have been talking about the easement, we wouldn't have had to hire Joe Miller, do the legal work. We'd have our entrance and exit as it is, and I know we got the second entrance and exit. But all that wrangling back and forth about what trucks can go out, where they can go out, all that stuff. To me, we've been good neighbors. I'm just trying to be made whole. And as a good steward, as we all are, good stewards of taxpayer dollars, I'm saying we shouldn't be incurring any costs because of our neighbor's project. We should give where we can give, but we shouldn't be incurring costs, and we have incurred costs, and we will incur costs. And so if that's something that they want or something that they need, which by the way, again, City of Dublin city manager apparently doesn't know that they need it. I'm not inclined to give them something without getting us back to being made whole.
You're not gonna get made whole at 347 square feet.
Then I want to get closer. I don't want the story to be told that the township trustees gave away property owned by the taxpayers for nothing, and yet we incurred all these costs and did nothing about that.
Well, I
And
don't
that's
think
where I
we,
say,
I don't think we, I mean, here's the thing, prior to Mount Carmel coming in, if you remember, Petrosi was trying to figure out a second way out of the township. And we talked to the neighbors, about going into theirs. And I think this gives us.
we already got that.
No, we only have one, and this is only gonna get worse. So we now have a way out. Yeah, it took some, wrangling. Yeah, we had to incur attorney's fees and things like that, but I still think that there are things that are unforeseen that we are going to need to talk to Mount Carmel about. And I think this is a way of saying, hey, Mount Carmel, again, we'll do you a solid by doing this and getting this through, and it can get moved to at some point in the future. We would appreciate it. And I don't think it has to be in writing. I think it can be a handshake, but this is my thing. It's so small, 347 square feet, that it's not going to amount to a lot. And I think to me, it's a good gesture to them to say, hey, we may need your help in the future. And we just want you to, go on record that
Well, how much money are we saving them by doing this?
saving them. I don't know.
They'd have to pay for the cost of the improvements, right?
Right. If we give them, then the city of Dublin picks up the cost.
And do we have an agreement from the city of Dublin to that effect, or is this another handshake? Because I don't do handshakes anymore. Handshakes were 25 years ago. Right now, today in business, everything's in writing.
Well, I mean, it's conceptually just saying, yeah, we're okay, we'll get this into we're gonna have to approve it. We're not asking for approval. We're saying is conceptually, we're good with it. It's gonna have to get nailed down and figured out for us to come to an agreement. Tonight is just about like saying, hey, conceptually, we're good, draw up the paperwork and we'll.
I'm good with looking at paperwork. I'm not good until I see what the paperwork tells me. That's the thing. I need to see.
I mean,
If they want to start drawing up paperwork and giving us a proposal, I'm all for that.
but it's not gonna be, it's just gonna be basically saying, hey, Perry Township is going to, is okay with. Giving the 300 and whatever square feet or,
For nothing.
yeah,
No, I won't vote for it.
Well,
I don't
doesn't
give away
it need-
taxpayer
it
property.
needs to say something too, that Dublin's willing to pay for this and all that stuff. I think they almost need to come with some kind of proposal that says, here's what we propose in exchange for this. Rather than just like, I don't say it's a backdoor thing, but almost like a side agreement where, you know, Dublin, I just don't trust Dublin. They could say something that's contrary to that, I don't know what it would be, but. I mean, I suppose I'm not totally against it, but I'm not totally for it, but it's like, there's too many unanswered questions right now about. To say, yeah, go ahead, just, yeah.
right, no, and that's not what I'm saying, like, we gotta know the ins and outs of it, but I think what they're looking for is conceptually like. How
I just think we need to get something out of this stuff. I don't know what that is yet, but. Because we're playing hardball with people that have more money than we do.
Right, well, and the other thing.
The money to pay for that over there, to me, is like pennies to what they have. Listen, Mount Carmel makes money. They're not in the business to lose money.
Right.
And all I'm saying is that we struggle with trying to do things that I think are sometimes so obvious, but we struggle with it because we're saying we're worried about revenue, we're worried about, and I am worried about revenue. And I'm worried about how we can pay for things and what happens in the future. And so when there's an opportunity to say, hey, listen, as a good neighbor, if you need that, then give me a proposal. If my neighbor wanted 2 feet of my property, I wouldn't say to them, hey, you got a project, you're renovating your house, and you need 2 feet of my property
For your garage, you need extra wires.
for your garage to be extra wide. I'm all good with that. That just wouldn't happen. That's not. And obviously anything like that had to be in writing. I just don't, I deal with it. Listen, I deal with attorneys and I love them all, especially mine, all day long. And there ain't anything that I do that's not in writing. I've just been burned too many times. Not by attorney. I mean,
Let's just see what the specifics are and all that.
and I agree
what-
with that.
And what this is. What this is saving them, which is a huge deal. I mean, if they have to pay for this improvement,
Well, here's a near-term favor. Can we, we're gonna have to do these improvements out here. Can we use your contractor to do, while they're out pouring the curbs for your roadway? Can we, can they bid our project and use that? I mean, that's like a near-term one. Your asphalt contractors, your curbs, your grading, everything like that.
but they've
Which
got
is
no
gonna-
control of those contracts.
No,
They're
but
allowed to do that anyway.
they could say, no, you guys go figure out your own. I mean, that's a near term, and it's gonna save us money because they're,
Like already up there and stuff.
yeah, they're already up here. So that saves us from a mobilization cost because they're just gonna continue and do our. Can we work out a deal? Now, whether that's paperwork or not, or that's a behind the deal handshakes. These are the things that we say, hey, we're gonna do you solid, let's do something.
Then what if they say no? You did us a favor, but no, thank you. And we already did them a favor.
I mean, the money, if they're in agreement for doing something like that, the money that we're gonna save doing that, using their contractor over what the cost of this thing is not.
We could
even
use their
close.
contractor anyway. Their contractor's gonna want to do business with us, I would think, if they're already up here with all their stuff. Mount Carmel's not gonna be able to tell them, no, you can't do it with Perry Township.
Right.
Contractor's gonna say, I can do whatever I want to. It makes perfect sense, just like the roofer who wants to do the house next door on the house that he's roofing. That's.
So I guess what I'm hearing
Easier
is
money.
you guys wanna see, you wanna see the details.
I just want to, yeah, it just sounds
Yeah.
too many loose ends.
Okay.
Are you sure that's what we were? I thought we had another easement that Columbus is.
We do. That's two separate issues.
Okay,
What's
There's
that?
a reciprocal easement over here, which is sitting on somebody's desk in Columbus. And then there's the right turn
Mike
lane in.
Lambert.
Correct.
That's on my, I'm sorry, that's on my list that I did last year. To get it off his desk.
So if I were to have him email each of you his
That'd
presentation.
be fine.
Sorry.
I'll accept whatever at this point.
I can't even get on. I have no idea.
Mr. English is gonna have more questions than I am, so, as well as Mr. Roper. As long as you can get in front of him. Although I haven't seen your presentation. So.
It's really good.
It's really good. Well, Michelle's not.
While we're doing this, you just want to, the only thing on her agenda then would be payroll, this, approval of payroll and disbursements, right?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Vote,
yeah,
yes.
I think, I don't know.
No, it was just our phones and like.
No, just-
his laptop's not.
Chief, you want to do your old business, chief?
Yeah, we can do that.
Hey, Chat,
Yeah.
you want the chief to do his old business?
Yeah, what's that?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for having
No.
technology and us don't get along as well as I'd like.
Old business, the only thing I have, we have another event that we added this Sunday. In Brookside, the ice cream and art event, it's on Merlin Court. And I have signed off on the permit that will go over to the fire department tomorrow, and they'll have it back to us tomorrow afternoon unless they see a problem. The other events are the upcoming, we still have the Kilborn 5K. There's the newcomer tree concert, and then the 5K global, I'm sorry, it's not global, but it's the racially cured cancer on the 22nd of October.
You have a fire in your mushroom? I don't know, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
You know what,
So,
I think. Yes. Arlington, there were a total of 15 calls in Perry Township with two, six calls between, out of the 15 were either at
were you
Epcot.
able to get it up online?
Thank you, Graham. Now you're up. Sorry.
No.
Maybe it's in your inbox now, gentlemen.
All right, I think we can move forward. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No
but,
problem.
There's a few things I would like to review here with you this evening. As many of you know, I've been meeting with Beth and Mary, exploring the option of looking at a software upgrade. With a few things I'd like to cover with you, really kind of talking about the potential of what departments could have available with the new system. Beth mentioned about kind of looking at your budgeting process and looking at some other options there. I think with regards to these bigger projects, one of the biggest pieces of them is how do you get your data out of your current system and into a new one? So we'll talk about some conversion options. I was talk a little bit about us and our experience, and then end obviously with some important things regarding cybersecurity. But I think I want to spend a little bit of time with departments. Beth and Mary have explained a little bit about how you all are operating currently. And if I understand things correctly, a lot of it is pretty limited at the department level. If I understand things correctly, some department heads are tracking things outside of the system. We've run into that. over at Clear Creek Township, we run into that at Beaver Creek Township and a little bit at Liberty. Oftentimes, what happens is because the department heads aren't or don't have access to the system, they'll build kind of audit reports externally. Basically, where they're checking their PO balances, trying to get it to match the system, those types of things, so they have it at their fingertips. I think one of the downsides there really is what happens if their report doesn't match the UAN system. Who's right and who's wrong type of thing. So with exactly. With the VIP system, the idea really is to incorporate the department heads within the system. So I mean, we'll use kind of just a hypothetical here. If a purchase needs to be made, we'll say, I don't know, well, police needs to buy new lights in the vehicle. They would have access to the accounting system to enter that, we call it requisition, that request for a purchase inside the system. They'd be able to, on their entry screen, see just their general ledger accounts. They'd be able to see the budget on those specific accounts. So they know before even entering it in, how much they have on a particular GL account number. Additionally, there's some other features that are nice with budget management, where they wouldn't even be able to enter anything in if there weren't funds on that particular account. The system is smart enough to say, oh, you don't have money here, you can make a request to move funds, or you have to choose a different account. And those types of things. Obviously,
So it actually stops you if you were to use incorrect funds, or you were overdrawn, or you were.
yeah, so if your balance is zero, it would not even let you submit it. With regards to access to funds, what would happen is, oh, that's
Oh,
perfect.
amazing.
I'll take care of this for you. Just keep talking.
That's the,
Oh, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mike.
thank you.
So where am I going?
Let's go to that department access page. One right after that. There we are.
All right.
Apple for the win. That's great. But yes, to answer your question, we can set up configurations where police would only see their accounts, and we'd even limit it even further where they wouldn't see any revenue accounts. So they couldn't mistakenly use a revenue account for an expense. You know, those types of entries. The bonus of that is really creating some ownership at the department level. They see their budget. They see real time how much they have. They'd be able to get in the system at their fingertips and say, here's how much I have open for all my purchase orders. Here's my encumbrance balance. Here's any adjustments that have been made off of it. Those types of things. So at the department level, it really kind of opens things up. With that, we can talk a little bit about the approval process. Oftentimes, people get a little bit worried about decentralizing some of the entry. Still having review on every single thing. The idea is to really just get away from the paper trail and move more to an electronic process where it can go to any person in the chain. It starts at police, it can go to captain or chief, then it can go to the finance office, and then it can go to township administrator, and eventually to the board. We can set up certain conditions where if it's above a certain price threshold, it needs to definitely go to this particular desk. Or if it's below a certain thing, it doesn't necessarily need to go through all those particular levels. The nice part of the department level, if I've entered in that purchase, I'd be notified where it's approved, when it's approved, where it's waiting. If it's on someone's queue, they'd be able to say, oh, I can go follow up with this person. The idea is really just to self-serve with your purchasing on that side. Any questions at the department level? I know there's a lot here, but I just kind of want to get a little bit high level.
One of the things I wanted to highlight, maybe you're going to do this later, is that any invoicing would go to that department. The department would be responsible for scanning in their invoices, getting it into the system. So those attachments, any maintenance agreements, this, that, and the other are all would be associated with that upcoming purchase.
Yes, so you have attachment capability from the purchasing side as well as the invoicing side. So once you've received that service or that good or whatever it is, that department head, scan in the invoice, attach it, and you basically use that original purchase order and begin that process of paying the vendor on that side. Good. That's a great point. Any other questions on the department piece. And the idea is really just some ownership over the department. I think one of the biggest limitations of the UAN system is this piece, really. Ultimately, with the UAN system, it kind of falls on usually the finance office to basically enter everything, provide updates, provide reports, kind of just basically all centralized on that side.
So just hypothetically,
Sure.
the chief wants to come and ask for a helicopter,
Sounds like.
which you'll never get. But that's beside the point. And the usual question is, do you have money in your budget?
Mhm.
How much do you have in your budget? What are the other anticipated expenditures within that line item or that area of the budget? And so forth. So he would actually be able to provide the board with all of that information.
Yeah, he'd have it right at his fingertips, but even before entering it in, the idea is basically to say, there's funds here. I'd like to use these funds for this. I'd like to use this particular vendor. Here's the account I'd like to use. Here is the attached documents that would justify the purchase or anything I wanted to live with this purchase order. And it would be submitted electronically to whomever. And then that approver would have all that information at their fingertips. Where they'd say, okay, yep, that vendor looks good. They have money on the account. Then we can kind of decide as a board, do we want to approve this purchase? You can either do it at a board meeting or you can print them out and do them then as well. But the idea really is just to kind of get away from the paper and you can kind of review these purchases in a board meeting and approve them here.
Now, one of the things you said too is like, unlike the way we can do things now, if money was taken from one line item to another, then our budget would be automatically updated.
That's
Which is something
correct.
we can't do now.
Yeah. So we'll stick with the helicopter. If he has, some of the funds in one account, he'd like to take some funds from his other GL accounts that he has. He'd be able to say, I'd like to take 100,000 from this account and move it to this account. And then basically, if that's approved, the journal entries would be automatically applied and hit the general ledger.
So in other words, if I want to buy something, use a helicopter, if I put in for it and say, like, I would submit it to her because Beth is my supervisor. So I would say, this is what I want. This is the account it's coming out of. And I can verify that the funds are there. So that I would submit it and it would go to her for approval.
You're exactly
And
right.
then it would go from me to the Board of Trustees.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and you'd be able to see on that particular purchase, where is it at in that trail? You'd be able to say, okay, Beth approved it, now it's waiting for board approval. And then your budget would be updated even before it's approved. So it would say, you're asking, I don't know how much is a helicopter, $200,000. That $200,000 is temporarily earmarked.
Okay. So that comes off your bottom line.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So your budgets would be updated until that final approval, and then it officially becomes earmarked.
So then once it's approved, it's permanently,
Correct.
but if it's denied, it would
We're
be earmarked.
You're exactly right.
All
So
right.
if the board saw something they didn't like, they could go in this particular purchase, provide a justification for the no or the yes. And if something was entered incorrectly, Beth could send it back to you and say, please fix this. Those types of things and kind of reroute it back both ways.
How does departmental time, salaries, benefits, everything like that, does that get integrated as well? So you get
Yeah.
kind of a real time, like where we're at from, just that type of an expense.
So on the payroll side, if you are to bring payroll in-house, you'd have all that information. But I believe you're kind of outsourcing payroll
We
at
outsource.
the moment. What we can do, and this is often what happens, is we create a template to get the important payroll journal entries, basically how much you paid each people to hit your general ledger.
Okay.
But unless you bring the payroll back in-house, you do lose a lot of those details.
I mean, just from a 50,000 foot level, you could pull that information from our current payroll service and bring it in.
So all that's coming into our system is the financial transactions.
Right.
From your current payroll provider, you're able to see all the payroll detail. That's where that lives. what we're curious, what's important for us is to say, we used our, 50,000 for payroll this week, we need to show it on the ledger.
Okay.
And that's what would come out of your third-party payroll into our.
But
system.
by department,
Correct,
yeah,
yes.
and that's how it works right now.
But if you were to bring payroll in-house, not that we,
Mm-mm.
you know, they're- all those details would then live within.
You'd have it all centralized. The big considerations with bringing payroll in-house, the biggest one is, do you have the personnel to support the extra duty? Is a big consideration there. With the third-party payrolls, all that detail lives in that system. The only thing to be concerned there is just like we call it like a file swap, basically getting the financial information out of that system into the general ledger to show money has left.
And I mean, you're able to do that from the current provider we have,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. We've not yet run into a payroll provider that doesn't have an export function that shows the employee code. Here's, they paid this much on this pay code, those types of things. It's
Okay.
pretty elementary.
Okay, gotcha.
To the next slide for budgeting, just quickly, the budgeting process, this area, this field has advanced a lot. From a budgeting perspective, this is your operational budget, for the township. The idea again is to really decentralize this process. We don't have to have it live in Excel with the wonderful broken formulas or, those types of things. The idea is to connect it to the general ledger. That way you're building it inside the financial system. And once approved, again, it's updating that way. The idea, so we'll pick on police. Police basically would have access to the system and they'd say, here's my wish list for the year. I just see my accounts. And then begins that review process, whether it starts with Beth or whether it starts here. You guys would be able to pull it up right here in the system and say, yep, police is not getting a helicopter. We're lowering that down. Obviously, all before it's finalized. Yes.
Can multiple people in one department have access to?
Sure, yeah, that'd be an internal decision, who you wanted to have access to the budget. So again, the idea really, a lot of people, what's really nice about the budgeting process is for the budget prep, they'll actually do it in a meeting like this and they'll be able to move numbers around and forecast real time. A lot of estimation capabilities, a lot of forecasting on the budget side. The big piece is the Excel goes away. So if a number is wrong, it's wrong inside the financial system and you don't have a battle of, is the spreadsheet right? It'd be fat finger a number, those types of things. From the budgeting side, but we have an internal tool with our budgeting. We also have partnered with a company called ClearGov, and that's kind of what they specialize. So you have two options there. What you think would be best? I know Mifflin uses our analytic product. It's integrated into the general ledger. Over to the conversion, if you want to go to that next page. This is the biggest piece with software. You could get a fancy new software and can't get your data in there. That's just kind of an expensive purchase without much use. We are pretty fortunate being here in Ohio. We have gained a lot of experience with the UAN system. Kind of listed the ones where we have from the UAN. Russ at Clear Creek just recently went through a conversion. The idea is to provide two conversions for if you do decide to move forward. One, to create a sandbox environment where it's a dummy database with your data that you can test and learn the system during the implementation. Then when it comes time for you guys to be live on a new system, we do another conversion to get all of your live data, and then you guys are live on a new system. To my knowledge, we're the only ones that can provide a conversion out of UAN. If you look at manual, it's a big undertaking, but we have seen some organizations want to do it manually. Beaver Creek Township was actually an organization. Their data, they said, was kind of so I guess muddy, they didn't want to bring it over, and they just entered their current year manually. A lot of work. Don't know if I suggest it, but really it's just how much data you want to bring over.
That's a good question. So how much data can we bring over from UAN? Because of my understanding from the state's perspective, that you can only have so many years. You can only retrieve so many years back, I guess.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So when you process year in in UAN, anything previous is gone. Those types of things. So it's a matter of, the state hasn't provided a ton of help historically. I would definitely talk to Russ and kind of see what we were able to set up with him. I think he bought a couple years over. But yeah, from our perspective, if we can access the data, we can get it in, and you get a full conversion. That includes GL numbers, listed some of the big ones, vendors, accounts payable, audit trails, your purchase orders, and those types of things, which saves you having to enter by hand, on that side.
So Beth, have we done anything about reaching out to UAN to find out what their policy?
Mary did.
Yeah, I did. And once we're out, we're out. They don't give us access to any data.
Do we get, while we're in,
While we're in, we can take whatever we want. But once we stop paying their fees, we don't have access to anything ever.
But
Maybe if we go back, but we don't have access to anything.
Not even look up.
No,
no lookups,
nothing. They cut us out.
because he's right. I mean,
Understand there's-
this has been the only company I've been able to come across in the past several years that has a UAN conversion. That doesn't mean it's 100%. I mean, and I know I think it was Mifflin that said they still, now they came out from,
Oh, yeah, Nancy.
they didn't have UAN, but they had the creator, or I guess the prior
Correct.
version of UAN. And there were little tweaks they had to make, but the majority of the information transferred over, Nancy said. So,
but that was a long time.
yeah, 2013.
Yeah, but obviously they have much newer versions now. Clear Creek went this year. They just did a conversion right there. Liberty Township's right in the queue to begin their conversion. Beaver Creek, as I said, they decided to do it manually. You have options, but I would definitely suggest looking at a conversion. Otherwise, entering all that in my hand is a pretty daunting task.
What's our UAN fees?
Like 4,100 a year.
Any questions on the conversion? Want to just briefly kind of talk about some of the customers around here. Go to the next slide on our Ohio experience. Just under 400 customers. The ones around here, obviously you've mentioned Mifflin, Worthington, Plain Township, Whitehall, Bexley, Pataskala, and Grandview Heights. These are the ones closest by you, but we're scattered all over the state.
Who's your biggest and who's your smallest client right now?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, we go all the way up to the county level.
Right.
So
Okay, who's your smallest?
our smallest, I'd have to look that up.
Ballpark, a ballpark.
So
like-
we have some entities in Indiana that are, I think their annual budget's 100,000 a year, so
Okay, so,
very small.
okay.
I don't know if you guys are using an open checkbook, but that is what some people like to utilize for some transparency. Basically, because of our familiarity with Ohio, you'd have that capability. One thing I did want to mention with Ohio, the state auditor's office is extremely familiar with our system. A lot of our customers, I think Nancy's even doing this, where they create a user for the state auditor. They'll just say state auditor. And then the auditor, if you go with the cloud system, would just be able to access the system remotely and navigate it. It happens quite often where they're so familiar, they know what they need. And if they need to be on site, they'll just shoot you an email, say, hey, I've seen the majority. If you wouldn't mind when I'm there, print this report and this report. So it really does change the audit experience from that side.
So they're not gonna be sitting here for days on end. They'll just kind of have a
Right.
short list of, hey, here's what we want to look at.
Right.
Yeah.
And because everything, all the invoices, the quotes, everything is uploaded and just stays with that particular purchase order,
Correct.
whatever.
Yes.
But yes, you're right. Mifflin they have a login just for the state auditor, and the auditor just goes in, does what he needs to do. And she said their contact is very, very limited. you know, and that just happens to be if something still happens to be on a piece of paper or whatever, so.
yeah. And, you know, the state auditor's office is extremely vendor agnostic. They don't sanction any vendor other than their system, obviously, right? But, they are extremely familiar with our system. You don't need to train them on where to go, is what I'm trying to say on that. Then the last quick thing I just wanted to bring to light on the cybersecurity front. You know, we've seen, unfortunately, trends where local governments are obviously a big target. When we look at protection of the system, the idea is really economies of scale. If you go to that last page, there we go. With the cloud platform, we decided to partner with Amazon Web Services for the hosting of the system. What I was kind of trying to say, you know, not questioning your cyber protections, it's just compared to Amazon, it's not really a comparison budget wise. From a security budget, the steps in place over at Amazon, they own the market there. We just had a city, actually it was Whitehall, totally protected, except for there was an employee who opened an email and clicked on a link. Over the weekend, they were totally locked out of their server. And because of budgets, they didn't have an extra server sitting around, so they were without a system. So the idea with cloud and why so many people are switching over to cloud is, you know, there's protections, but there's the recovery. So if something does happen, how quickly can you get back up? So, you know, it's often called how redundant are you, the redundancy of your system. You know, you could have backups, but if you don't have a server to power it, you're locked out. You know, that's some stress, you know, those types of things. So cloud totally changes the game there. Very, very scalable solution. Obviously, there's the remote capability from some of those things. So I always just tell people, you know, when's your last backup? Where is it? You know, with you know, our VIP system, your backups are automatic every day and obviously stored off-site. And then if you are hit with someone, if an employee, it's just so hard to protect. You can't watch every single email they open. If that ever does happen, you're a day behind worst case scenario. So just things to consider on the cyber front. You know, servers and hardware, it ages out extremely fast. Especially as you guys grow, your server's gonna need more space. So that's the game, I guess, that the current industry is trying to play with is go the server route or the cloud route. I don't, you know, in the last several projects, I can't remember one who's chosen the server, but know that both work for our system. But cloud seems to be a pretty solid option on that front. And then really just questions. This is what I kind of want to leave a few moments for, if you have any in mind.
How much?
Yeah. So based on the modules that we've discussed, there's two costs, a one-time cost and an annual. For the one-time cost, it'd be around $62,000. For the annual, it'd be about $18,000 a year.
And what modules are those? That's just the,
That would be the accounting,
yeah,
and the budgeting tool and the department access.
what's the 62,000 based on? Is it based on the number of accounts you have, or is that just a flat rate? I mean, how are you?
Several factors, right? How many people will be utilizing the system, size of the organization, you know, those types of things, how complex are the workflow is going to be, several of those factors.
Right. So you
And then obviously modules, what
right.
pieces of software to use. In
Yeah,
this case
so-
would be accounting.
So this 62,000 is based on the discussions that you had with Beth and Mary. Okay.
So is there your technical support?
Yes, so that's
We'll
part of
talk
that
a little bit
18,000, yeah, so it's not where we don't track how many tickets you put in, you're not limited by any of that. You know, the other benefit of the cloud is we can connect them to your system, to your screen. So we don't have to describe, well, I'm looking at this screen, there's a green thing here, and you know, we see exactly what you see. We have a standard of responding within 2 hours, which is our standard. We put in tickets. I think the last that I saw, 97% solved the same day for tickets.
Is that what you're referring to on the sport?
We have obviously you came up with a number, you have a breakdown, like,
Yeah, so happy to provide an actual order quote.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Very easy.
Then what, from the time we say go to the time that we're up and running, what's the average?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a moving target at this point. What starts that process is a signed order.
Yeah.
What we've seen is it usually takes about 3 to 6 months to learn a system. That's from starting. Well, oftentimes what we do is, if you do decide to move forward, we do have a signed order. Our first step is what we call a kickoff call. That's where we'll look at your schedule. We don't want to hit a payroll week or a busy time of month. So we'll try and coordinate a good live date for the township. And we obviously have an implementation schedule we'll need to follow. So we'll set a live date and then work backwards, set the milestones leading up to that live date. I think right now our implementation team is looking at lives for third quarter of 2024.
Oh, and then what's so the deployment part of it? Is it billed at once when it's completed? Is it billed
As far as
quarterly?
billing? Yeah. So as far as the annual fees go, those would start once you have access to the system,
Okay,
once that's installed. And then normally what we've done is 10% due at signing, 60% due at when the software is installed. The remaining 30 is when you are live on the system. We've negotiated other payment plans. If we do, we don't charge any interest on any type of payment plan.
and what was the 60 again?
When the software is installed. So when you start the training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry for all the technology
working.
problems. Mike,
Thanks a lot.
go Star.
Yes, definitely. Helicopter for you.
Thank you so much, Grant.
Yes, thank you. Slip away.
All right, you
Okay.
take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Beth, are there any comparison apples to apples here? Are there other companies out there that we can?
There are other companies out there, and again, they're all very, very expensive. The one thing that puts them at the top is that they have the ability to convert the data from UAN. And I haven't been able to find anyone else that does that.
Well, just for giggles and grins, do we know of competitors out there? I mean, I'd like to be able to hear from somebody.
Yeah, I can call Washington Township again. I know because I've done this over the years.
Hey Beth, Westerville, I talked to Westerville and they're on this platform called Central Square Technology. So that, again, I looked at it a little bit, but that's the one that they use. And they use for accounting, budgeting, accounts payable, accounts receivable.
Maybe if we get them there.
Okay, I'll check with Washington too.
In Washington.
I'll forward it.
I take it Worthington's real happy with this.
Yeah, actually, I accidentally found out about these folks. I called over to say, how do you, as department, I was talking to Assistant Chris Craig, and I said, how do you see what's going on with your budget? And he just went on and on and on. They just implemented it and stuff. So he put me into contact with our finance person over there. They gave me some more information. And then I put it out to all my administrators, and Nancy from Mifflin came back and said, we've been using it since 2012. We love it, blah, 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 blah. And Mary and I went over and spent an hour and a half with her, and she was walking us through it. Now, positive for Mifflin was that they came in on the beta portion of this.
Mm.
So they got it reasonably inexpensively, but she didn't have anything negative at all to say about it. She took us through the different things it would do, how it progresses from the moment a department had got the invoice to approval, payment, the whole wazoo. It is very expensive. I will tell you that I did find out that we can use ARPA funds for this, if that was something the board would want to consider. But then I know we have a salt barn hanging out there in the wings as well, so
So is this gonna be on your wish list?
this is gonna be on my wish list.
Right. So I think that the way I look at it is, yeah, it's super expensive, but it's sort of a departmental cost.
Mhm.
So it's not gonna be just, it's gonna hit the general fund, but it's gonna hit the road department, it's gonna hit the police department, it's gonna hit, the general fund, everything like that. So when you start spreading the cost out over it, and then, that it's not super insurmountable, but it goes back to what I'm always harping on, Steve. If you're gonna buy this piece, what does it save us in terms of, efficiency? What are the things that we're doing now that it takes us forever to do? Can we get real-time reports, which has value, which has huge amount of value? Because you're able to see things, again, in real time. And I think that has a lot of value to the department heads, especially as we're kind of looking at developing a budget for, 2024. I mean, any time nowadays, this is about what you're seeing. And then again, the yearly cost gets distributed as to, what's the allocation to each, and then you just gotta, you gotta make it work within your budgets if you want it. So, but I agree with Chad. I think, that let's look at some competitors just to make sure they're in the ballpark, but I think it's better than what we have right now. Not saying that it's, but I'd like to actually see the platforms, because UAN or the reports that, we get are worthless to me, because I don't know how to read them. I want to see a true P&L statement. What's my revenues, what's my expenses, what's my, that's the way I'm used to seeing it, where the stuff that the state requires is worthless.
And that's what's nice. I mean, it gives you all the state reporting you need, but Nancy was taking me and Mary through all these different reports. I mean, and then you can export them and you can manipulate the information so it's into your what ifs and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But it is a lot more like a robust Quicken like type thing where you can pull a report down and you see everything. I can't remember the name of the report that she showed us, but pretty much I think anything and everything you guys would want to see routinely was on that report. And then you can drill down however, if you want to look specifically at police or this, that, and the other. But if you can give me the name of that Central Square, the contact, Central Square Technology, I can just look it up too.
So you can call me Shortland at Westerville. I don't know her, Beth, but she was nice enough to respond to my email.
It would save us money on the hardware side. What is it? This would save us money on the hardware side. It'd be hard to quantify that.
Well, right now, the thing is that the UAN does provide us with like a computer or a printer or whatever our preference might be, but yeah, that's about it.
Let
So
me ask you this question. I'm sorry for interrupting. First of all, I agree with Andy. I mean, I think we ought to get at least one.
oh, I have no problem. It
So
would,
over the next couple meetings, if we can
Yeah,
get them in.
absolutely.
If there are two out there that we can bring in and just do a cost comparison of it. But I thought, and I guess you just have to remain a UAN member to go back 5 years or 9 years or whatever. Can't really take that with you. Once you're out of the Youngstown circle, then you can't go back in.
Right.
Walker Family Circle of Trust.
right.
Right.
So,
But they at least, like, again, this was the big selling point for me, was that they have that conversion.
yeah.
And that it's just with that $62,000, they'll automatically do 2 years. And then it's like for every year you want to go back is 1,500, but the UAN used to stop at, when I first started using it, you could only see 4 years worth of data. And now Mary said now it's 9 years, although we never, if I'm looking at stuff, I never go back more than 5 years for any particular reason, but I think it was for both of us, we were very impressed by it. It's very user friendly and instead of everything falling on this office, then
It falls.
it kind of gets shared and that there's that, responsibility instead of, like you've said, instead of looking at me seeing is the money there and me having to go into a
Right.
spreadsheet and figuring it
Well,
out.
Steve
It's right
shouldn't
there.
have to be looking at you to see whether the money, in fact, we probably even shouldn't be looking at Steve. If the board has access to that and then we
And
have
that's the thing you
questions,
would. Yeah.
we simply ought to know whether there's money there when it comes up on the agenda to be able to look at and say, well, there's at least this amount of money there. What does that amount of money equate to? I mean, we can start drilling down
Right.
more specific questions about it, but at least we'll know money exists. Now,
Yeah.
what does the chief have commitments for that money? We can have all those conversations, but
And there might be a report that Andy finds very, very useful for him, but not so much for you. And there were a whole slew of them. She just
Okay.
kept scrolling down. So in any case, yep, I'm happy to do it.
okay. We can go back on the zoning. We can sort back on.
Thank you. I got lost around this. So.
So I have not, I know Jen, I saw a couple emails from Jen on the zoning code, so I'll follow up with her to find out where she's at on that, but yeah, and I didn't see, I just saw their bill and I didn't see a lot of time on her, so I may have to let her know that
We need it.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to add these. I was talking to Keith today. He's been working with them to get the process down to go in front of the zoning commission for the solar. But I need to ask you all to reappoint Gary Collins to the 2023 zoning board commission and also Carolyn Mangus, because they haven't had a meeting forever.
I'll make those appointments.
Second vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. And that's a term of 3 years, just so you know. He did say the Oakbourne, he wasn't able to be here tonight, obviously. A couple big sized limbs out of a new tree in that location have fallen down. So was back in contact with the gal.
So where are we? Because I'm tired of hearing this from residents.
I know, I get it.
This property, and I think their concern stems from a couple of different. One, they're concerned. What I've heard so far is we're concerned that the property owner doesn't physically have the ability to take care of their property or doesn't have the money or whatever the case may be. Can we help? And I said, no, you shouldn't help. That hinders our process. But where are we with the process of determining this property to be a nuisance?
My understanding from when I talked to him the end of the last week, she had made some progress. So there wasn't, and she was staying in contact with him. But no, they shouldn't, because that just resets the clock. And let me talk to him when he comes back, and I'll get a really good update for you on that.
I appreciate that she's remaining in contact,
Right.
but to be honest with you, Beth, I don't see much difference in that
Okay.
property. He may see difference. He may be looking at something I'm not looking at. I'm looking at, their yard looks like a bush hog went through it once, and that
Okay.
was it. And I know how bad it is. I mean, the backyard hasn't been cut for
Yeah.
years.
Okay.
And I don't want them doing it.
No, I don't want them
But,
doing it either. So,
Because I think it's dangerous to begin with. I just think we need to get this thing moving
okay.
before we get any more people with pitchforks and fire
Right.
and all that stuff.
Well, I will talk to him Wednesday morning when he gets in and see what we can
Uh-huh.
do to make that happen.
I know the Merwood and the, what's the other one over in Brookside has been taken care of.
Yeah, those two
Yeah.
are doing better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Although he's keeping, again, he's done a really good job
Yeah.
about making sure he's getting out there and checking properties all the way through, so. And I'm sorry, because I was busy with technology. Am I supposed to do anything about this easement? Did you guys want the special meeting with the owner or no?
I mean, I just sent an email asking Joe and he just responded. He just said, all this will be the final documents if you agree. If you don't like the final documents, then don't sign them. This is how it works. The documents are standard for takings everywhere. I highly suggest the sake of a long-term relationship with neighbor that we move forward, take care of Joe.
They will.
What was the date? What was the date that you were?
A week from today,
14th.
after 2:30. No, we were looking at Friday and that didn't work. So he said Monday after 2:30.
Do you guys want to call Joe individual and just talk to him?
Sure.
I mean,
We can.
again, I have the benefit of talking to him and what he said made sense. So, if you guys want to chat with him and then you guys can decide whether or not we want to do something additional.
Okay.
How about Mr. Roper and I will call him individually and then get back with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say the
gentleman,
gentleman, and I know I'm not going to say his name right, so I'm not going to try. He seemed very open to coming in and talking to the board,
Okay.
so.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Old business, the circle in the green, updated schedule went out today. Milling Road Monday, fiber mat will go down Tuesday, and hopefully it'll all be paved by Friday. We'll, once that's done, we'll work on getting the stop on. Wrapping that up.
Did they clean up at all? I noticed like on the Oakmore, Strasser did that, right?
That was Shelley.
Jelly. There's no asphalt that kind of like spilled over into the concrete gutter. We got tons of that in our gutters. It just looks like it's kind of sloppy. Can that be like skimmed off or?
It'll be swept up with the milling, and then again with the fiber mat. Once those stones go down, they come in, sweep all of that really good.
But it almost, like I said, you can almost, it's not like it's like attached, Like if you had like a scraper would knock off, it looks sloppy though.
They'll get a lot of that off.
Okay.
You mean the most recent work that they did?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the inside and the outside. It's just like it overflowed and it just,
A lot of that will be knocked down, like at the edges with the mill where it came
Right.
up a little higher. Cause I noticed they left some a little lower.
but it's almost like it's just a bunch of extra stuff that's just sort of stuck on the concrete, on the gutters. If they can sweep that off somehow or scrape it off or I don't know.
Most of that should come off. We'll work on. that off.
In some parts too, I know you have to have a crown. You got a really big crown for like a relatively small street.
That's all gonna be milled down. I don't think the crown will change. It might not. It might a little bit.
It shouldn't get any higher, hopefully.
It will not be. They're gonna do a full 1.5 inch mill on that cross.
Inch and a half.
Is that how we're gonna return? Is it the circle on the green now? Are you guys gonna copyright that?
Was over the big pen.
Maybe.
Well, not only the Pac-12, I'll tell you that.
Ion Court was supposed to start today. They got rained out. They're hoping to be there either tomorrow or midweek to start working there again.
Is something going out about that?
It went out Friday that they were supposed to be here. Monday, weather permitting.
Okay.
Yeah, there was
send out an update,
I haven't sent out an update about it.
can you?
Yeah, I just got on the phone with Tom.
We can let her crystal off.
Yeah, I texted her Friday or Thursday about it today. They think it'll be about a month before the Rockville goes back up over there. They're going to move the equipment in and out off of Ion. See this first month. Then on to new business, the salt barn. I met with, well, Beth and I met with Johnson and Lux last week. He came in, looked at what we have, is going to put a proposal together.
We have it now. He sent it.
The proposal of a letter of engagement.
Letter engagement. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah, there are two separate things.
Oh, this is the finance. They're gonna send over a budget proposal, so we'll have an idea of. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the schedule. I forgot to pull it out. They're thinking about 6 months on the project from the time they start. We're looking with budget pricing, they said they'd have it in about 3 weeks, giving us 2 weeks to look that over. Decide if it's good for us. If it works, then we would issue a PO and then they would go into the design phase. Design, they're saying will take about a week and then send us a proposal for the design. And we would issue a permit. Then the construction proposal, each stage, they send a proposal where we would submit a PO, approve it and move forward.
Is their budget gonna outline each one of these? Like, they think design's gonna be X, permitting's gonna be X for the total project cost.
The initial budget proposal, it's gonna be an estimate to get as close as they can to each of those.
But it's gonna have all. of
That's
those
just
steps
line
broken
items.
out.
Of all the
Yeah,
milestones.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so this letter of engagement simply means that we're moving forward to a budgetary discussion, right?
Yes. Just that we're.
Yeah.
approving
Start the
to-
first stages.
So we gotta sign a letter of engagement to get budget numbers.
To approve budget numbers.
I'm just saying, like, what's the cost?
No, this,
And-
There is.
yeah, this is just kind of, I just asked him for an outline, just as a starting point. So, in fact, it says in here, there's no fees encumbered by township for the budgets and proposals. That's if once you get the budget and the proposal, you decide, okay, this is looking good, then that's when you would approve it, we'd create a PO and then go into the next step. I just wanted him to get something put together for you folks, just as a starting point.
So this is just like signing a letter of engagement with an attorney, and we haven't incurred any costs.
Right.
Incurred any
Yeah.
costs
Right.
until
Right,
we approve. it.
right.
So when did he say he was gonna have the budget numbers for you?
3 weeks. Is what he has.
From the time we sign this letter?
Well, from our meeting. the other day.
But do we have to sign this letter in order to get budget numbers?
So, this is a letter.
Yeah.
Approving the engagement with them.
We'll see budget numbers.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is, I mean, we gotta figure out loan amounts and everything like that, and we may say, we can do the design cheaper, so we don't need you to do the design.
We have to figure out if all that has to go out for bid. We have to have a letter of engagement for someone to design.
We do. Well, we have to go through the qualification based selection
Only
process.
if it's an architect. If we hired a structural engineer, and the other part of this thing is, can we go to, because we're working on a project right now. and they have a huge retaining wall. The structural engineer that is on the project said, we don't stamp structural wall. So we went back to the manufacturer and said, hey, if you guys want to spec this product, you're gonna have to stamp your drawings. And lo and behold, they're gonna stamp the drawings at no cost. So my feeling is, can we go to the salt barn people and say, you guys are providing this product, you guys are gonna stamp, because you don't need an architect on this. It's a prefab product. They know their system, they know how it goes together. So you just say, hey, can you guys do it? And then we're not incurring any cost. Like, that's the reason why I just want to see the budget numbers. It's like, if they're gonna charge us $10,000 for design, then I would say,
Go to the next.
go to the manufacturer and say, hey, if you guys want this project, you're gonna stamp these drawings, or you're gonna figure it out at a lot much lower cost. I just want to see the budget numbers.
Three weeks from what? What day?
Last Wednesday. So we're already,
He was hoping to have something to us by our next meeting.
Tell Corey he needs to have something like that.
Yeah.
With the engagement letter and the budget. He wants the business, he can do it.
because, but he didn't give you kind of like, hey, I think we're in the 250 to 300 range in terms of nothing. Okay,
Yeah, the one.
right. Okay.
Okay.
And if you get some sooner, like if you can turn around and get it out, just so we can see it, I mean, I think we can.
When is our? No. Yeah, by the next meeting at the latest. If sooner, great. Get it to us.
So
With the letter of engagement.
So the other question is, if this is gonna take 6 months, do we start it this year? Knowing that we're gonna be probably into demoing and all that other stuff, and then are we prepped to do something with our salt for the winter? Or do we just say, hey, we're gonna push this in next spring, which then you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with this thing, because we're not storing salt in that thing for the winter.
Well, I say we start it as soon as we can. I mean, we're gonna have to do something with the salt
Right,
to use it. I would like to look at picking up the stone blocks to block off kind of the back area of the parking lot. Just enough to give us an edge to where it's not pushing off into
right.
the grass. Park our salt there, go to the EPA, get a permit for the length of this project, and then
Okay,
we either use
do
it
the
prior
storage on
to
site.
its completion, or if it's still there, we put it back in when the salt barn's completed.
Yeah, in case we need to move forward. I don't trust the cost of next year.
It's just gonna go up.
yeah.
They come tomorrow, everybody's probably taxed.
Amazing what they can do in the winter time anyway.
No, that's it. I mean, you got demo, you got,
Right.
I mean, we gotta do a lot of stuff back there to just get to the point where we're
Right.
putting up a salt barn.
I mean, don't pour concrete at a certain temperature, but a lot of stuff you can do.
And then the only other question I have is, going to the city. What is the city, what's the city need?
City doesn't.
But that's something that's kind of, if you go with this company, they take care, they just pass it to them, they take care of all the permitting and everything else that's needed.
Okay.
At least that's what we were told.
Give us a package by the 21st. Pushing.
Oh, can I add something to that? So I've been trying to find, I've got it, and it's in here for financing what I've got so far. Baird and Baird, they do everything with bonds. So he was trying to do us a solid, as what somebody over here likes to say, but their interest rates aren't gonna be, they're gonna be a little higher. So I have the guesstimate, their estimates from Huntington. I talked to Ron Grossman, they've used Heartland, So I have a local guy here working on some numbers. Let's
What
see,
about US Bank?
Michelle said that she was gonna take care of US Bank. I haven't heard back from her yet. I've looked for grant opportunities through the engineer's office, Morpsey, Grant Finder, OPWC, BWC. There's nothing there, but I did get an email today from the Office of Budget Management with some links, so I'll have to check from that. Did you have a contact at the engineer's office, though? Remember, I was talking to Paul from Genoa, and he said, now this was Delaware engineers that helped assisted them with their salt barn. But
Oh.
if I don't mind calling them.
No.
Again, the ARPA funds can be used towards the salt barn. I got an email confirmation from Julie. And
How much funds do we have in art right now?
about 200,000.
But these annual, semi-annual payments are based on just financing it 100%. It doesn't.
$200,000. Yeah, I just use a $200,000 base.
All right.
Yep.
And then if we did finance this thing with that 19 would hit the road department budget.
It would.
And it's just is 6 years the max that we can go, or can we go longer than that?
We can go longer than that.
Okay.
And the payments would, well, depending on the bank. With Huntington, they said it would make more sense that the payments would be due like right after we get our influx of money from the
Right.
auditor, property taxes and stuff like that. So, or you can do yearly too, if you want, but that's, I think that would make more sense, that it would be timed when we get those real estate funds in.
Okay.
So in any case, I'm still doing a little bit more checking. I have no hope though for grants, I'm afraid.
So that 19 is actually 38, 39 a year. Thousand, the way I read that, or is that 19,000 split by 2 semi-annual payments? Is it-
Yeah, so you just double it for the year.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I know that we added on the strategic budgeting discussion items that we had for the department.
I'm sorry.
Hour and a half, do we want to listen to admin and let everybody go? I know we talked about getting revenue numbers.
Yeah, I mean, here, they, and Beth and I were texting today, so it's sort of the strategic meeting that we had on the 28th was like finding out what are you guys anticipating for 2024? Not like, hey, you're getting it, but you know, what do you guys need? Because then we got to look at the revenue numbers for 2025, which that was helpful. And then I'd like to see the second quarter numbers, and potentially a third quarter. I mean, if we see like things first and second are pretty, you know, like they're holding strong. Those are the line items that then we move to 2024 and say, okay, we're seeing an uptake. Let's just do it by 10%. Let's just take this line item and add 10% to it. That gives us everything, you know, based on the spreadsheets. That gives us our number. Add on our salaries of, you know, what do we got? 3%. January 1st. What's that going to look like? And then that builds our budget. And then it's going to determine based on the revenue numbers and this wish list, what are the things that we're going to be able to fund out of this, you know, and that goes for the.
I got something to find it. I gotta follow up on something.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
It's kind of,
So to me, the strategic meeting was just sort of the start. It wasn't the end point or the approval point, but just like sort of like, okay, what do you guys need? And we build in the budget and that, but based on what we heard with this, you know, with the discussion here, I think it all builds to, you know, we did something with a budgeting software. We're gonna have to do those steps anyway, because you're gonna build the budgets anyway. So I don't.
But let me get this straight. I mean, I know that we weren't at the point of, I was pushed to be at the point of approving it, but I mean, if you're asking for third quarter numbers, you operate on a calendar year, not a fiscal year.
You know,
January 1st to December
So
31st.
you won't have those third quarter numbers till
The end of the year.
the end of the year.
Yeah, because she's getting ready to close out second quarter now.
Which is fine. I mean, we have until December to finalize our budgets. I mean, second quarter is gonna tell us a lot. Third quarter is gonna confirm. But you have until the end. I mean, you don't have to set budgets until December 31st. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just sort of the process that, and we've never gone through this process, so it's not like, you know, there's no urgency to agree to anything because none of these are gonna hit until 2024 if they end up getting approved.
Is there anything on this list, Chief? I'll just start with you. Is there anything on this list that we would need to order this year to get next year?
Yes. No,
What-
the BAC machine. The oximeter DMT, this machine, I would like to be able to order it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to pay for it until it actually comes, from my understanding, but I got a updated quote today that's more than the last one, so I want to verify that, but it should not, we should not have to pay for it until it's
But
official.
we're gonna need that regardless.
Right.
It's not a wish list, and we talked about that during the strategic
Yeah.
plan. It's not a wish list. It's a
Right,
gotta have.
that's a need, yeah.
So, yeah, that's,
So we can pull that out of this.
yeah, I mean,
Deal
it's,
with that.
Well,
Yeah,
can we
so-
get that approval tonight for this then?
I don't have a problem doing that.
Okay. Up to, I know it said 11.
Yeah,
What did your
it's
quote say?
11,767 is the current quote. That's including shipping it here.
Okay,
I mean, like, do something, no more than
No,
$12,000.
12,000.
Yeah, that's right.
See 12,000.
you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Vote?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
And then I have one other one, which is the staffing study that we talked about, so we can engage with that.
3,200?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second,
Vote
Yes.
yes. We're taking those two out. Okay.
and the one thing I didn't see on this that we did talk about was we had identified $2,500 for wellness for police. But I didn't see that.
I don't remember 2,500 for
I
us.
think I'd asked, I was like, yeah, I didn't see anything
Oh,
from a
there's a line
wellness
item.
standpoint. We just said, can we just put a line item?
That was just a line item.
Yeah.
Right,
Which I do have a question about that. Go ahead, I apologize.
no, go ahead.
We have the bridge golf outing coming up.
Right.
How do you want me to just use that to sponsor?
Well, that would be like sort of like, again, if you're gonna say, hey, I want $2,500 in 2024 for wellness,
Yeah.
whatever it is, then you just determine like, yeah, we're gonna use it
Got it.
out of those funds.
Okay,
But we've identified the funds and you can then go out, use
Yeah.
those. And then you're not asking like, hey, where do you want me to go?
okay.
Yeah.
Ian, is there anything on your list that we desperately need, have to order or would need to order?
No, there's nothing there.
Okay,
Because
Okay.
the one thing I would probably say is that, again, based on the revenues and not until we can dig into that, but your road construction number might go down because you've got to accommodate almost $39,000 a year for salt farm. So those are the things that we gotta kind of look at is, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it's all gonna be balanced in terms of,
so how quickly can we get third quarter numbers?
well, at least second
Well,
quarter.
Second quarter,
So, yeah, let's start there.
Okay,
How
she's-
quickly can we get second?
she's gonna be closing out tomorrow, the following day.
Okay,
Luke already has the majority of the data entered.
okay,
As long as I don't have anything on my schedule, it usually takes me a couple hours to go through and balance everything, make sure everything's lining up.
so we can get that by the end of the week.
I will do my absolute best.
Okay,
Third quarter, I need you to remember that somebody's not gonna be here.
I
So
understand that.
Well,
I'll
what
be
if we
doing that.
did this? What if we looked at, instead of just wait till the end of the quarter, why don't we just look at, at the end of September, say, okay, what September's numbers look like? Because then you can add, I do that all the time. It's like, you just project and
Tack
say
it
it's gonna
on.
be the end of the year. Because you have first quarter, you have second quarter, you're starting to see, and you can build that trend. And you pretty much know without going to the end of the third quarter if we want to.
Yeah. One of the hard things is that all of our payouts are in December. So you never know what that's gonna look like.
Right.
So, and that's
Okay.
usually a decent hit. So, but yeah,
Maybe this first year, we just go to second quarter and.
go from there.
Get the second quarter numbers,
Okay,
have them ready for the 21st, August 21st. I mean, I'm sorry, have them out to the board
before.
before the 21st, obviously,
Okay.
as soon as possible. So that we can make decisions based on first and second.
Sounds
quarter.
good. Okay.
No, chief, you can't be a fireman.
No,
But
I
they're
passed
so
it.
pretty.
And let's get that package.
Yep.
Corey's a good kid. he's
Huh.
good.
But how long did it take them, like, from the time we know what this number is to the time that we have financing? What bank give you any kind of a, like, on closing?
No, they have not. I was just asking for interest rates and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was
It's,
actually
we
surprised
can-
that the interest rates look pretty decent considering.
Right, and the thing is, now if we were going through the bond, like Baird and Baird,
Yeah.
which is what they did, then that's a long process,
Yeah,
right? But this should be pretty, I would think, quick and easy. There are requirements, at least from Huntington. You don't have to have your audits, you don't have to have all this
right.
other jazz to go with.
And is there
So-
one thing we need to know, is there any prepayment penalties?
Good question. I'll ask. Okay,
Or if we, the other thing, if we refinance by any.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Is it over order?
it's fine.
Well, we didn't break any records tonight, so. That's for Mr. Wentworth.
Technical difficulties.
Okay. I look for, we did payroll and disbursements, right?
Yes.
Look for most to,
Are we doing my strategic plan and then,
oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
I mean, if you want. Yeah.
Yes.
I won't take long.
You're all dismissed. Sorry.
Thank you. You don't get one.
Oh, you have one? Have a good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Trying to say,
We'll be happy to know that the median value of home and bills is $501,700. Where'd that come from? Yeah,
We just got.
my wife would be happy to know that. We're paying 43% more taxes.
a good night. Okay, the majority of mine was number one is the accounting and budgeting program. So that kind of breaks down, like I said, we met with Nancy over at Mifflin. Mary and I were very, very impressed with it, and based on the feedback we've gotten from you folks for quite a long time. It's if the township can do it, I think it's a good route to take. One of the things is your prior years, once you get going, your prior years never fall off, unlike the UAN. I kind of have a list right now. I've talked to several of the administrators or fiscal officers. The list on the left from UAN, those are all the people that are currently using UAN. I did ask, what kind of reports are you providing your board or your department heads and this, that, and the other? And I think you two would probably remember the most. You used to get these big stacks and it was just pages and pages and pages, right? And that's what they're doing for the most part. So the other side is some of the, and he added a couple more tonight that are on this VIP program. So obviously I've talked to Mifflin, City of Worthington was very excited about it. The Liberty Township, just to be specific, is not my Liberty Township, it's in Butler County.
I forgot to ask him. So the big question is, if they're going live in 2024, if we said go tomorrow, when are we, is it still 6 months? Or so we wouldn't be implementing this until third quarter of, or are we looking at 2025?
Well, if it, depend, like what he explained to us when we went to talk to him last was that they have quite a lead time, because of other projects that they've
Right.
gotten going.
Right.
When I first talked to him, he says, we started getting a big influx of townships and entities that want to get away from the UAN for the same reasons
Right.
we've discussed. So yeah, it would get pushed that much further out.
I think Beth, I'm just gonna tell you right now, and I'm an absolute penny pincher and whatever, but I think if we can look at and it's your onboarding, that is the biggest expense. If we can find a way, and again, if the ARP funds can be used for it, cool. I just think that there's spreading, but again, everybody's got to share in the cost of this. So
Right.
it's like,
And that's, I'd already talked to the department heads about that. It's just like with everything else. If it's being shared, then everybody's going to have to take a piece of that
yeah,
pie.
and then it's not, I don't think it's insurmountable, but again, like I was saying, I'll just use Ian, like every year he goes in at like 270,000 for road construction. You may have to back off of that in order to, be able to accommodate some of these other things, which is totally doable. You're just, okay, I can't do this street, this
Right.
street, and this street. That's fine.
Right.
We're not going anywhere. But if it gives him a benefit, I think it's the same thing with Steve.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, Steve, what do you want to do in order to get this ability? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one thing Nancy at Mifflin said is that, first, there was a certain comfort zone level of department heads, it's kind of being handoff.
Yeah.
But then once they really got into it,
Yeah.
they really, really took charge and they do their own budgets now. And then there's that still approval process, right?
Yeah.
To tweak here and tweak there, whatever your
Yeah.
progression is. But I will definitely get checked out those other two. And I did have the estimated cost in there at the bottom of that section. I guess I'll wait for Chet to get back here. I hear him.
Oh, hey, the other is there. Oh,
I don't know. I can check.
There.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, this is Bill.
What's going?
Meeting.
Oh,
I think that, just in terms of like looking for, I like what Mary is from the financial aspect of it. And I think that the candidate that we look at has got to have a very, very strong financial.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But that person's also going to have to be doing other things. But
Yeah,
that's the
totally.
main focus is
Right.
that because her accuracy is
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so and she understands how it all works.
Right.
So I completely agree. That's going to be the biggest focus, but the candidate's going to know that they're going to have to do other
Right.
things as well. So in any case, my goals here for 2024 and kind of starting this year, just like with the police, we need to have, I want to have Dave and Sean kind of sit down and understand what goes on here specifically between me and Mary and help. I don't want somebody else getting in the same boat, bringing somebody else and just feeling got too much going on or overwhelmed, whatever. So we're supposed to meet with Waypoint Thursday about the police, and immediately after we're going to have a short conversation about here to see how they can help gauge it. But that kind of leads into when Luke was brought on, it was like we had some really big projects. One was that our records retention needed a lot of help and a lot of work. So he's got that now where it's managed. You know, it's just a day-to-day type thing, week to week. So I want to be able to look at his job description, whoever might be coming in next, and maybe transfer a little bit more over to him. Just try and figure out the best way to work this overall with all the duties. Mary's going to be sitting down. I asked her for at the end of this week, try and think of everything you do. And then let's start trying to figure out how we can kind of spread the wealth. This accounting program, if you go that way, that's going to take a lot off this office. I will tell you that right now, because she spends a huge portion of her time doing POs and preparing checks and making sure, getting with the other department heads. And let's see. The other piece to it is just with job, I want to look at the job descriptions, job classifications. As I said, we haven't had a true admin in here for a long time. And that's how our structure is still, whether it's in pay or whatever. So I'm kind of working on I've reached out to different entities for different positions to see what the pay scales are like, you know, what I've been asking for their job descriptions and this, that, and the other, just to try and kind of go out of my realm and see what other options are out there, maybe just looking at some of their stuff. One of the things I noticed when I've been doing these payroll things is I was trying to figure out, it's like, well, what's the rhyme or reason? And there is no rhyme or reason between steps. There's just none. It's like the next step might be 2.68, and from step 2 to step 3 might be 10.29, or, you know, it's just, and I want to be able to tell people as as someone's going through those steps or whatever, coming in, trying to get an idea of it. If someone says, well, why is it like this? I want to have a good explanation and I want it to make sense. And right now, not a lot, even I went back and looked at the police that we just did. There's not a lot of, most places you're going to have 5% between this and this, 10% or 10, 15, whatever the case may be. Ours is just, it makes no sense. So that's just not a priority, but it's definitely something I want to get in there. I want with road, a couple of years ago was the first time roads ever gone to training, you know, and that was huge. That was huge for Ian and Nate. It was huge for the department. So I want to look some more options for those two, especially, you know, if we create that foreman position. I think we've done really well with Luke, getting him the training that he needs, but I think there's training that I could use and an incoming person could probably use. And I want to try and identify some of the better things that's going to help us in the long run. I'm still going through searching for grant writers and funding sources. I've been making a lot of phone calls, sending a lot of emails, trying to find out options there, short-term, long-term, people we can depend on when we need some form of financing. Obviously, finding Mary's replacement is huge, but I want to make sure we have a good foundation for it. And she'll be part of that process, obviously. This is something I talked to Jimmy Reardon about ages ago, and I really want to do this. He had actually offered to facilitate it, and it's a nominal group process. Have you ever heard of that before? Mm-hmm. I hadn't, but it helps. It's where the way Jimmy put it to me is like for him, whether it was a fireman, all the firemen come together and they start out by have little cards that say, you know, what are your top 10 things you think this department needs to focus on over the next year? And then they find the ones that, you know, the top 5 that everyone picked. And then you narrow it down until you've identified what your priorities are. And I'd like to do that for the police department because it's the largest, but then also as a group to include the trustees. You know, what are our goals? What are we going to focus on? Like Jimmy said, they have that up on their walls. This is what we're striving for this particular year. But as he explained the process, I thought that was a really good thing to do. And locating audio-visual equipment that I can
That works.
depend on. And again, that's at the bottom of the list right now, but obviously between switches and Zoom not working, it gets really, really frustrating. And that's one of the things too, I want whoever takes the position. It's hard for me to do this and pay attention to the meeting at the same time, especially when something goes sideways. So this is something, a responsibility I want to get shifted over to somebody else. And I did skip one up here was, I want to expand their wellness program into the other areas. And Marcus, I know, has been doing a great job with the police department. He's hooked up with a Steve Click, who's with public safety, that's just been providing tons of resources. I want to try and transition some of that over to other departments too, so they have that benefit as well. And last thing, I just wanted to, two more things. I've kind of skipped around, but we're all on Microsoft 365 now, and we have a server. So everything backs up to that server. The goal is to get rid of the servers totally so we don't have those maintenance costs. So I met with Think CSC 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're trying to find, Microsoft 365 doesn't have a good solution for redundancy and so on and so forth. So they've narrowed it down to 2 different programs or whatever the term is. And they're doing some tests right now to see what performs the best and is the most reliable. So once they get to that point, then I'm hoping this coming year I'll be able to come to you guys and say, okay, this is the route we need to take, and then we can just get rid of that server altogether. That server's older than me, I think. So, and the last thing is in 2019 is when we made that big push and got a whole bunch of new computers. We're guesstimating end of life after somewhere between 5 and 6 years. From what I'm gathering from other agencies, leasing is becoming more and more the way to go, just like our officers are leasing their laptops now and their cars. So that's something I want to take a closer look at. But I want to have some kind of, when things are rolling off, and instead of waiting for a computer to blow up and then trying to figure out how we're going to replace it. So kind of went through that fast. So did you have any questions, or do you think there's anything else I need to be focused on?
So how do you envision, hypothetically, if we were to go with this company, just because it has a number to it right now, $62,000. I know that the ARP money can be used for, but we also have the salt barn. It also cuts across really every department, including the general fund. I mean, do you envision, well, yes, pay half of it with ARP funds and then the remaining divided up equally or by department, depending upon the number of users in that department?
Yeah, I'm thinking more typically the number of users,
Okay.
more than anything else. The other option is and that was something I meant to ask Nancy, how they split theirs up, because the other thing is volume. Mary and I were talking, it's like probably we get the most bills, that's coming out of the general fund. Real close second would definitely be the police department. The road department doesn't have that much.
Okay.
So when we're thinking of it that way, thinking more less users and more
heads, number of people, because that's,
no, it doesn't really work. I mean, it worked with our computers, splitting our
Sure.
computer bills up,
Right.
but not so much with something like this.
But
So
percentage of use.
correct. Yeah, I think
More
it's
in-
going to come down to that more than anything. And again, I wanted to double check with Nancy to see how they do it, because they split the cost over all departments.
So when he was saying the number of users equals the
number.
annual fee and the onboarding, like what does that mean? Like, how many people do we have, and that sort of thing, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Well, I was taking it to me because that's something we didn't have that discussion on. That's the first I'd heard that as
Okay.
well. So, I mean, you're paying for the software, so that's X amount
Right.
portion, and this is what he needs to break down for everybody. And it's just like, I know with Think CSE, we get charged for users who say have a full office. We get paid X amount per head, then we pay for people who only use the email number per head. But I'll have to get better clarification on that.
Yeah, I mean, to Chet's point, asking him just, what does 62,000 break down into, like, what are we getting and
Mhm.
understanding what makes up that, but, okay,
Yeah.
no.
But I will tell you, I mean, I had Mary sit right next to Nancy and I was sitting on the other side of the desk, and everything is just, it's just right there. And it's just going, you click this tab and it's going boom, 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 boom. You click this and it's boom, 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 boom. I can see at any given time where something is in the process.
Right.
And
So would you envision us, like, instead of signing checks, we would just hit approve, 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 approve?
there is that option, but that's an additional line item, which I can have him add that. And it's just a digital signature for you guys. And he'd asked me that question and I just wasn't sure how comfortable you guys would feel about that. I mean, I'm sure there's controls. If you guys would be good with that,
I mean,
it's easier.
But the only thing with these software packages is it's like they come in and it's like a grocery list and you get the basic, and then it's like everything that you want. It's like, oh, here's another one. Here's another. It's like, it just keeps, and then all of a sudden before you know it, your annual fees like,
like $1 million.
$50,000. So that's the only thing that we gotta kind of
Yeah.
understand going into this thing is, does the 62 and the 18 give us everything that we want?
Right. Now I will say, okay. The check signing solution, up to 4 digital signatures, is $4,400 setup, and then it's $495 a year. Yeah. I'll just have him do that on his final proposal to you folks, but
As long as, because it's like, there's a lot of times that, prior, like I'm looking at stuff. So it's like, if I could come in and just like go through all the invoices
yeah.
and be able to look at it and say, okay, I hit approve,
Yeah.
then they're done.
Yeah, and then the nice thing is, say if you have a question, you can, because I'd be on site, I'd be like kind of at the top. So if you have a question, you need me to verify with something with chief, or for that matter, you could probably just do it yourself if it took it back that far. You just write a note back, ask your question, he responds, or I respond, whomever, and then you go along your merry
But would
way.
that save somebody from having to print out all these checks to just getting it to the point where you've approved it, and then it just goes right to the printer and it's gone?
Right.
Oh
yeah.
It takes out, and those are the steps that are important, because I mean, how many checks she were, printing out where she could just print it, put it in an envelope, and it's gone.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, like I said, he'd asked, I said, well, his point was that there's so many boards that people are missing all the time. I said, well, our board is almost always here. It's very rare that we don't have someone here.
Those are the little steps that make life easier, and I think that's the benefit.
But I love the idea of because this happened last week, and it's like, Beth, do I have this? And I'm like, it would be so nice to be able to say, here, this is your budget, because there's that responsibility. It's really easy when people can say, look at me.
Right.
And then come back and say, well, Beth said, that kind of takes responsibility off their plate.
Right.
Right. So,
no, I don't disagree that it's not a very powerful. And how much do we have in the ARP
It's
fund?
a good-
You said two.
right around $200,000.
And then what other things are we looking for the ARP funds to pay?
The salt barn.
So what's the cost of the cell phone?
They're guesstimating 200,000, but we'll know in 3
I
weeks.
still think that we finance that. I think it's.
Well, the funny thing about that, when we had the conversation with Dion over in Jefferson,
Mhm.
well, no, it wasn't.
No, it was
Dion, who?
Jason Nicodemus.
Nicodemus. He said, famous quote from Hugh Dorian was, never use your cash. Was finance.
Mhm.
He
No,
financed
cash
everything.
is king.
Yeah.
Well, and
So,
here's the other thing,
You
if
when you
we,
need it.
if we do anything with the other part of the facilities, you just take that and wrap it up in a loan and refinance, because interest rates are. So I just think that there's benefit instead of spending the cash and having it out, it's like, yeah, you're gonna pay an interest rate, but still,
Yeah.
cash is king.
Right,
So-
and I didn't think the rates that we got
didn't
so
think
far,
they
I thought
were
they surprised me actually, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I had, but if you have, like, I s-
Really, the program, the budgeting program.
that's my
is the
big
main
thing right now. Right,
So you
Still
gotta put
think a
that
three-sided structure that's not heated or
It
ventilated,
actually is on the list.
budget that costs $200,000.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, somewhere on there.
I still think that, we
DW
can
is
get
there,
a lot of the salt barn design done.
But obviously, I mean, if you come up with a third company, obviously,
I
we
will.
don't want them to come in together, so it's gonna take
Absolutely.
maybe a couple meetings, but
okay,
we just want to be able to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
no, that's fine.
Hell, it may be the cheapest, I don't know, but we'll know until we know.
What's the dimensions
Oh,
on that salt
excuse
barn
me,
again?
Can
roughly?
we adjourn then?
Oh, yeah,
We all-
yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
No, I'm sorry, did you do the fiscal officer thing?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Second.
vote,
Yes.
yes.
thank you.